Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a boy named Rohan. He was kind, smart, and had big dreams. But there was one problem. He did not know how to speak English. Every time he tried, people laughed at him. His classmates made fun of his mistakes. Even his teacher sometimes corrected him in a way that made him feel small. Rohan felt sad. He thought, maybe I can never learn English. Maybe I am not smart enough. One day, he was sitting alone near the river, watching the water flow. Tears filled his eyes. Just then, an old man with a long white beard and kind eyes sat beside him. "Why are you sad, my child?" the old man asked. Rohan wiped his tears and said, "I want to learn English, but I keep failing. Everyone laughs at me. I feel stupid." The old man smiled gently. "Do you know how babies learn to speak?" Rohan looked at him, confused. "No, how?" The old man chuckled. "When a baby is born, does he know any words?" "No," Rohan said. "Does he make mistakes?" "Yes," Rohan nodded. "Does his mother laugh at him when he says the wrong word?" Rohan thought for a moment. "No, she smiles and teaches him." The old man's eyes twinkled. "Then why are you afraid of mistakes? Why do you feel ashamed? Learning is like growing. It takes time. You must be patient with yourself." Rohan listened carefully. He had never thought about it this way. The old man continued, "Do you know the secret to learning English?" Rohan shook his head. The old man leaned closer and whispered, "You must listen, speak, read, and never be afraid." "Listen," Rohan repeated. "Yes," the old man said. "Listen to English every day. Listen to songs, stories, and people speaking. Even if you don't understand everything, your brain will learn. And speak. Yes, speak. Even if you make mistakes, speak. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Talk to your friends. Talk to trees if you have to." The old man laughed. Rohan smiled. "And read?" "Yes. Read simple books, short stories, anything in English. When you read, your mind remembers words. And never be afraid." The old man nodded. "Fear is your biggest enemy. If you are afraid, you will never try. If you never try, you will never learn." Rohan took a deep breath. Something inside him changed. He felt hope. From that day, he followed the old man's advice. Every morning, he listened to English songs. He watched movies with subtitles. He spoke to himself in the mirror, laughing at his mistakes instead of feeling bad. He read simple books and wrote small sentences. At first, it was hard. People still laughed. But Rohan remembered the old man's words, learning is like growing. One day, there was a big competition in his school, a speech competition. The topic was my dream. Rohan wanted to participate, but fear knocked on his heart. What if I make a mistake, he thought. What if people laugh? That night, he had a dream. He saw the old man sitting by the river, smiling. Fear is your biggest enemy, the old man's voice echoed. Rohan woke up with new energy. I will do it. I will speak in English. He practiced day and night. He made mistakes, but he didn't stop. The day of the competition came. He stood on the stage, his hands shaking. The crowd was silent. His teacher, his classmates, everyone was watching. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then, with all his courage, he spoke. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rohan. Today, I want to talk about my dream. My dream is to learn English and inspire others. I believe mistakes are not bad. Mistakes are lessons. Fear is not real. Fear is a wall we build. But I have learned, if we break that wall, we can do anything. The hall was silent for a moment. Then, applause. People clapped, cheered, and smiled. Rohan won the competition. But more than that, he won something bigger, confidence. That day, he realized something important. Learning English is not about being perfect. It's about trying, making mistakes, and never giving up. So, my friend, if you are trying to learn English, remember Rohan's story. Listen every day. Speak without fear. Read as much as you can. And most importantly, never give up. You are not alone. Every great speaker was once a beginner. Every fluent person once struggled. But they kept going. So can you. If this story touched your heart, if it gave you hope, then please like and subscribe. It takes a lot of effort to bring you these stories, and your support means everything. Let's learn and grow together. More amazing stories are coming soon. Stay with me. Red Heart. Days passed, and Rohan kept improving. He started helping his classmates who also struggled with English. Some were shy, some were afraid, and some had given up, just like he once had. One day, a girl named Mira came to him. She was known as the quietest student in school. Nobody had ever heard her speak in English. She stood in front of Rohan, holding a book tightly in her hands. Rohan. I want to learn, she said softly. Rohan smiled. That's the first step, Mira. You already have the courage to try. She hesitated. But, what if I make mistakes? Rohan laughed. Then you will learn faster. Do you know how many mistakes I made? She looked up at him. How many? Rohan grinned. 1,000. Maybe more. But do you know what happened after that? What? I got better. I learned. And you will too. Mira took a deep breath. She opened the book and began reading. Her voice was shaky, and she mispronounced many words. She looked up at Rohan, expecting him to correct her harshly. But he simply clapped. That was amazing, Mira. She frowned. But I made so many mistakes. Rohan shook his head. No, you made progress. Tomorrow, you will be even better. Just don't stop. And she didn't. Day by day, Mira practiced. Slowly, her confidence grew. She no longer whispered, she spoke. She no longer feared, she smiled. One day, during class, their teacher asked a question in English. Nobody raised their hand. The room was silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, Mira stood up. I know the answer, she said clearly. The whole class turned to look at her. Even the teacher raised an eyebrow. Mira answered in English. It wasn't perfect, but it was strong, clear, and confident. The teacher smiled. Very good, Mira. She sat down, her heart racing. Rohan turned to her and whispered, See. You did it. She nodded, her eyes shining with happiness. Yes. And it feels amazing. That day, something magical happened. Other students, seeing Mira's courage, also wanted to learn. They started asking Rohan for help. Soon, a small group gathered after school every day, practicing together. They spoke. They read. They made mistakes. They laughed. And they learned. One day, the same teacher who once corrected Rohan strictly called him to her office. Rohan, I see what you are doing, she said with a smile. You are helping others. And in doing so, you have become a leader. Rohan felt a warmth in his heart. I just don't want anyone to feel alone like I did. The teacher nodded. You have learned something very important. Knowledge grows when it is shared. And I am proud of you. Those words meant everything to Rohan. Years passed. Rohan and his friends became fluent. Some of them went to big cities. Some became teachers. Some traveled to different countries. But they all remembered the small group where they first found their confidence. One day, when Rohan was much older, he visited the same river where he had once sat, feeling hopeless. He smiled, remembering the old man. Listen, speak, read, and never be afraid, he whispered. He looked up at the sky and said, "Thank you." Somewhere, he felt that the old man was smiling too. And now, my dear friend, this story is for you. Maybe you feel like Rohan once did, scared, lost, unsure. Maybe people have laughed at you. Maybe you have lost confidence. But I want you to know something. You can do this. If Rohan could do it, if Mira could do it, if thousands of people around the world could do it, then so can you. All you have to do is try. So, promise me one thing, never stop. No matter how slow you feel, no matter how many mistakes you make, no matter what others say. Just keep going. One day, you will look back and smile, just like Rohan did. And when that day comes, I hope you tell your story to someone else, so they don't feel alone. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel even a little bit stronger, then please like and subscribe. It takes a lot of effort to bring you these stories, and your support means everything. Let's learn and grow together. More amazing stories are coming soon. Stay with me. Red Heart, keep learning. Keep believing. And never, ever give up.